Alright guys, now at the date of recording this video in late September 2013, there is a new generation of video games consoles on the way. And I'm not talking about the ones that you might be thinking. I'm not talking about the Xbox One or the PS4. I'm talking about what I'm predicting, and I might be wrong about this, but I think the rise of the micro console will be something that we'll see over the next year or two. Now, I don't often make predictions, but today we're going to have a look at the first of the micro consoles, and the one that's probably got the most publicity so far, the Ouya. Now, if you haven't heard much about the Ouya, it was a Kickstarter project that was on the website Kickstarter back in summer of 2012. Now, the goal of it was to make an open source, hackable, $99 Android-based console, and to date it's actually the second most popular Kickstarter project and most successful on the website. It actually got over $8.5 million worth of backers, and today it's actually the second most popular Kickstarter ever on the site. Definitely the most popular video games one. So this actually came out at the back end of last year, and to be fair, the reception has been a little bit mixed. Now, I did mention to a friend of mine when I got my Ouya over the summer, I've got a mate who actually works for a games website, does a bit of journalism for them, and you know, I kind of got his thoughts on what he thought of the system. He was very dismissive of it. He said, you know, outside the technology community, no one gives a shit about the Ouya, and the company are going to be bankrupt within a year, to paraphrase what he said. Pretty harsh words, and it could well be the case, to be fair. You know, the company, Ouya, have been pretty shit, to be fair. You know, their PR is non-existent. There's been tales of, you know, people who are backers for the original Ouya who are still a year later waiting on their consoles when you can actually walk into a store in town and pick one up, which is outrageous. There's also been some problems with stuff like the controllers. A lot of people have slated them. Some people are not a fan of the titles that already exist on here, although I do think it does get a bit of a bad rep. A lot of the comments I see online are people saying, like, you know, wake me up when GTA 5's ported to it. They're expecting an Xbox One or a PS4 for $99, which ain't going to happen. However, I do think there is a space for the micro consoles, as the magazines have been calling them recently. If you look at, you know, traditionally Nintendo's audience, I think will be the market that might pick up on these. If we look at the Wii U, it's been an absolute flop. I'm not really sure that Nintendo can turn that round until they get to the kind of price point that the original Wii was selling for in the end. When the Wii became popular, it was a family-friendly console that was cheap enough for parents to buy it, you know, for their 9-10-year-old kids to have in their bedroom. The Wii U is too expensive. It's not really going to appeal to that demographic. You know, if they can ever get the price down, maybe. But I think the hardware itself is a bit too complex and a bit too pricey for that. So enter the micro consoles, and there are a few more of these on the way. I think there's one called a Mad Catz one as well. It's going to be a I think the next version of that's going to be a Tegra 4 based machine. This one here is basically a Nexus 7 without a touchscreen and with a HDMI and a controller. It's a Tegra 3 based machine. Some of the games are actually pretty decent on it though, but I'll get to why I like the system in just a minute. You may have read more recently as well that some of the big companies are getting involved in the micro console market. Most famously, Sony are going to be launching a micro console version of the PS Vita. Now, they're going to be selling that for the same price point as the Ouya. It's going to sell for $99, and it will allow you to play PSP Vita games on your TV with a DualShock 3 controller, and maybe more excitingly, you'll be able to remote play your PS4 games in other rooms in the house as well as doing the usual media stuff, you know, Netflix and Hulu and all that. I'm sure we'll be on it as well. So it's exciting times. I mean, these are really cheap devices, and I think particularly in kids' bedrooms they're going to be, you know, really popular for parents who haven't got the cash to spend. You know, who's got $400 or $500 to spend on a Xbox One when that comes out. So the reason I like the Ouya, it makes a killer emulation machine. Now, I'm not a big fan of mobile gaming. You know, I play a few on my 3DS and my iPhone and my iPad. A lot of people when this came out were like, do you really want to play mobile phone games on your TV? And even though there are specific titles for the Ouya, that is essentially what you're doing. However, it does make a very compact emulation machine, and it does actually have some very easy to install and very good emulation software packages on it. So I'll tell you what I'll do. In case you're not familiar with the Ouya, we'll have a quick look at how it comes and the design and kind of what's included in the box. We'll have a quick look at that, then I'll set it up and give you a little tour of it. Alright, when you first get your hands on an Ouya, you're actually greeted with this rather stylish compact box. Now, I did actually pick mine up in a high street store. I walked into a branch of Game, that if you're not familiar with them, they're actually, you look like GameStop, they're a, you know, pretty famous UK franchise. I walked in and got this off the shelf, which I think is the only place that you can do that in the UK. I'm not sure if anywhere else is stocking Ouyas. But if you look at the design of the box, it's nice and compact, pretty professionally done, and it gives you a bit about the philosophy of the system. Free the games. Then if we turn it around, inside this little box has big dreams. And it actually tells you a bit about the ideas behind the system. Every game is free to try, which is true. Everything that you actually buy on the Ouya, first of all, you'll actually get a free trial. Every game title in the Ouya store is required to give you a free demo first. So there's a few of the early titles that appeared on the system. When you open it up inside, a bit more propaganda there, and so the revolution begins. Then you get the you peel that away, then the sections of the box are revealed. Now, I've already unboxed it and been playing with my Ouya for a couple of months. So this is what you get in the box, basically. You get the Ouya itself, you get a controller, you get a power supply, and something Sony and Microsoft could learn from, you also get an HDMI cable. Are they still bundling the PS3 and the Xbox 360 with composite or component? Anyway, so we'll have a quick look at the system itself first. Now, it's very, very stylish. It is so small as well. If you look at that in comparison to my hand, you know, it's basically this little cube with curved edges here as well. There's a fan underneath it there that sometimes, depending on the game you're playing, can sometimes spin up quite loud, but it does get warm, but I haven't really had any overheating issues or anything. We have a power button on the top there. It's kind of flush. It does light up white when the system's plugged in. A few screws at the top to hold it all in place. And on the back of it, we have our ports here as well. So we have a full-size USB, HDMI, micro USB, Ethernet, although it does have built-in Wi-Fi, and the power adapter plugs in there as well. So that's pretty much it. It's got Ouya engraved there too, and I think anyone who is a Kickstarter backer had a bit more there as well about the team behind it too. So it is very, very stylish and very small as well, which makes it really easy to carry to other people's houses. More on that in a bit. Now, you also get a controller included as well. Now, this is actually a bit of a controversial subject, as a lot of the earlier reviews of the Ouya properly slated the controller. Some of the initial complaints were that these buttons here would tend to get stuck under these removable fascias here. Because when I first got my Ouya, the risk of sounding stupid, it took me literally about 45 minutes to figure out how to put the batteries in. Because this is not, you know, rechargeable or anything. It takes standard AA batteries, and you get two in the box. And I was here like, you know, what do you do? Does this bit here open? Do you pull these out? I literally was doing that for ages. As it turns out, you actually, you need quite nimble fingers to get in here. But you remove these plates on the side. Both of these pull off, like that. And you put the batteries in there. But yeah, because my system had them on when I opened the box, I had no idea how on earth you got those in. So eventually figured it out, but there's a little tip if you are planning on getting one. That's how you put the batteries in. There's one on either side. Now, a lot of people would say the buttons got stuck under this fascia here. Not a problem with mine at all. Can't make it happen if I try. And also, some reported that the analog sticks here would actually get stuck in certain positions. Again, hasn't been a problem at all for me. I actually think it's a pretty nice controller. Bearing in mind that the entire budget for the system was about $20 million, including any marketing or anything like that too. You know, it probably doesn't rival the Xbox 360 controller, but I wasn't expecting it to. It is still pretty decent though. We've got the two analog sticks here. They also have micro-switched buttons underneath. We've got a D-pad here that is probably the weakest bit. It's a little bit mushy. Power button there that you can turn on the controller from. Not the console itself yet though. The buttons here, Ouya, so they're basically your ABC. They've actually called them, you know, after the name of the console. There's some shoulder buttons and triggers here too. And this bit here is very cool and unique. This is actually a touchpad. So obviously a lot of Android software is optimized for touch. With this, you can actually have a mouse cursor on the screen if you drag your finger over and tap on things, which is quite a nice little solution. The power supply is a standard thing you can get anywhere, and the HDMI cable. So what we'll do now, we'll set the Ouya up, and I'll show you some of the titles on it and using emulation on it too. Alright, so the Ouya is all set up on top of my trusty Amiga 1200. I told you I was a retro gamer too. So when you first turn on the system, you're actually greeted by this menu here. that you can access a few different elements of the system from. Now, using the controller, you go up and down and select various things here. That will show you the most recent title that you're using. There's some must play, they call it, which are basically this week's featured titles that you can access from here. If you go down to the Discover section, that takes you into the Ouya store. At the top is this week's featured titles, basically new stuff and things they want to push. Down here is Trending Now, so that'll be kind of hot new titles this week and things that people are buying most at the moment, I guess. More interestingly, down here are the genres, so you can kind of pick the kind of games you're interested in. For example, if you're a racing fan, you might want to go in there. I think fans of my YouTube channel will probably want to check out the one right at the end, which is the retro section. Now, in here we've got HD updates of old school games, and also you'll find all of the emulators in here too. So we have got quite a lot of them. There is a NES one there, we've got a Game Boy Color one there, there's a Super Nintendo, Commodore 64 one. So we'll talk more about these in a bit, we'll come back to that. And there are also apps here too, which are very good actually. The Ouya makes a very nice little media box, as we have a port of XBMC, which I'll show you a little demo of briefly in a minute. There's VLC on here as well, if you're into watching live streams of video games. Twitch is always really good, we've got TuneIn Radio, so all of those have now got native Ouya ports. There's stuff down here like Ouya exclusive games, sandbox games too. So I think there are about 300 titles that are, designed for the Ouya that are available now. So there's that section. Make is where all your development stuff will live. So for things that are not actually in the Ouya store, you can do what's called sideloading. So that'll mean that you can put things on from the Amazon store and the Play Store and transfer the files directly to Ouya and actually use them. Cause it's in an Android platform. So in here I've actually sideloaded the Amazon store, which makes installing third-party stuff a little bit easier. For example, from there I installed Netflix, as there isn't currently a native Netflix port for the Ouya, but I've heard that it could be coming at some point. But actually this works pretty well, so I often bring the Ouya to other people's houses to watch Netflix or into the bedroom, so yeah, it's good for watching on a night. I've got MAME in here as well that I've sideloaded, MAME for Droid. Now, I haven't got my external hard disk plugged in that I normally keep all the ROMs on. So as you can see, there's only one ROM on here. An old game called Tecmo Night that I used to love when I was a kid. So it actually makes a pretty decent MAME box. So it'll do the checkups. I'm sure you know how MAME works. I'll get past all this. There we go. So I've configured all the keys on here too. So I don't remember how this works. There we go. Let's put some coins in. And we'll start the game. There we go. And it's nice to be able to play this with the controller, even though I'm not very good at this game anymore. So yeah, as a MAME box, it works pretty well. A lot of people are saying you can do emulation and MAME on a PC, but being able to use it with a controller, not have to, whenever I use MAME on a PC, I tend to have to reconfigure things every time I play it. It's a nightmare. Having it all contained in a tiny little box like this, being able to play it on a big screen in the living room with a controller is, it's on a whole different level for me. Now, if we're going to play, you can see a few of the titles I've downloaded. For example, we've got the XBMC port here. Now, if you're not familiar with XBMC, it was originally a project that started on the original Xbox when that first got hacked to turn it into a media center. It actually stands for Xbox Media Center. And there are lots of different categories, for example, pictures, videos, music. And they've all got, you can either access your files on your network or you can download add-ons for them too. So you can see here I've got the 40D Channel 4 add-on here, the ones for Hulu. I've also got NASA one here, Revision 3, the Twit Network, a Twitch one too, Vimeo, YouTube one here. So it actually makes a pretty decent YouTube viewing platform. So if I go into my subscriptions, using the controller, you can just go into them all. It will pull all your new information through from the RSS feed on youtube.com. Go to my new subscription videos. And there we go. I obviously will not play anyone else's video because, I don't want to infringe anyone's copyright, but as we can see there, you can sit down on the couch, you can do it with this, you can also plug in a wireless mouse and keyboard via the USB port. It works fine with everyone I've tried, so it does actually make a pretty decent browsing platform for YouTube and media from your couch. Very compact device as well, obviously. What else have we got in here then? TuneIn Radio, FilePaw. Now this is actually a really useful program I'd recommend anyone installs. You can get this from the app section. FilePaw will basically allow you to browse through the directories that are contained on the internal memory, and that means you can actually install things that you've sideloaded because they won't appear in the download section. So you can go in and just directly click the APK files and that will install them. So see, it'll tell you there. So I definitely recommend that you install FilePawn, an essential bit of software for any Ouya owner in my opinion. And the reason I've got that on there is because I actually sideloaded, if you watch my channel, you're an Amiga fan, so I've got UAE for all on here too. Which is a little bit more complex to set up than a lot of the other emulation because there's not actually a native Ouya port for it yet, but I'll actually link to a little guide and I might actually do a video a bit more in depth on setting this up, but you can you know, browse your ADF files here. I haven't used this too much yet, but you know, I've got my Kickstart ROMs in here too, so this might have to be something that we kind of explore a little bit more. So how do I actually start the system? I think we just press reset and it should load it up. There we go, so that'll be loading up the Zool game now. We won't sit around and watch all that, but yeah, so there is, you know, you can make UAE work on there if you're into Amiga gaming. Now there are some actual emulators that you'll find in the store. For example, we'll go along a bit further here. We have the Super Nintendo one, there's two of those, SNES 9X and Super SNES. I'm not a big SNES gamer, so I haven't got many ROMs for that. We've got the Atari 2600, so we can play Atari games on here. So we can click into my recent games that I played, for example, not picking the best game on the list. It'll actually auto-save them as well, this emulator, which is very cool. So I want to continue playing Pac-Man. I know it's not the best ever port of this game, but there you go. So yeah, the Atari emulation works really well. What other ones have we got in here? Let's have a quick look through. Megadrive emulator, that's one that I play quite a bit. Recent games, so what have I been playing recently? Sonic 2, we'll try that one. There we go, so that works really well. And you can either store all your ROMs on the internal memory on here, or you can plug in an external hard disk and just kind of swap between them. I love the way it actually remembers your save state, so I think that's really cool. So the Mega Drive port of Miss Pac-Man here. So yeah, that's another emulation title we've got there. What else can I show you? Let's have a quick look through as well. There are a few more. There's yeah, Nintendo one here, original NES. Look at recent games again. You have to excuse the fact that some of these are kind of going off the edge of the screen. This is not a fully widescreen TV. I've normally got it set up for my 50-inch TV in my living room. So let's try one of these quickly. Super Mario Bros. 3. There we go. Let's go over. Yeah, so remember how the keys work and everything again. So yeah, I mean, for emulation it makes a great little machine, as I've mentioned a few times. And there are actually, for old school gaming fans, there are some games like this one, 8-Bit Ninjas. If you like games like Fez, with those kind of, you know, kind of pseudo 8-bit graphics, this game's really cool actually. You know, it kind of, it does appeal to people who are into this kind of thing. As you can see, the graphics are kind of, you know, very retro looking, with a kind of modern twist on them as well. I love Fez, so, you know, this game appeals to me. Yeah, you get the idea. And there are some HD updates of older games as well. For example, recently I've been playing Another World. They got a port to the Ouya recently. Only came out in the store actually last week, I think. So yeah, it's the 20th anniversary edition. So I'll resume my last game. Oh, gonna die straight away. Let's kill that guy. How do we do that? Oh yeah. I'm probably gonna die here. Yeah. But right, I can show you, hopefully if that guy won't come back. So the graphics, I mean, they're all vector based anyway, so it was probably pretty easy to upgrade these, but if I press the Y button on the top, That's what the game used to look like on the Mega Drive and the Amiga. So it's had quite a nice little update in graphics there. Looks really nice now. Kind of reminds me a bit of the 3DO version actually, so it's great to have these old games making a comeback again. It's really cool. So that's another world. So there you go, there's a brief overview, hopefully didn't ramble on too long, about the Ouya. It wasn't really meant to be a really in-depth look at the system, more it was, you know, I've had people asking me, is it any good, what can you do with it, what do you use it for? So, I mean, look at the size of this thing. For something you can actually put in just a little shoulder bag and take around a friend's house for an old school gaming night, for the sake of $99 or £99, as it is here in the UK. For what I wanted this system for, it's really fulfilled my needs, so I'm more than happy with my purchase of the Ouya. The fact that I can watch YouTube and do other kind of things on it too, media in particular, I think is cool. I do enjoy a few of the native games, but for me, being a very small, compact, easy to set up emulation system is where it really excels. And I thought, you know, if you're watching my channel regularly, chances are you've probably got similar interest to me. You kind of like playing retro games too. So I'd recommend this to any retro gamer really, if you haven't got access to the original hardware, as let's be honest, it's a bit easier to carry this around than your Mega Drive, Nintendo and Amiga to your friend's house next time you go around for a gaming night. So there you go, look at the Ouya. I'll post information on their website and a few of the things I've talked about in this video below. I'll also add my Google Plus and my Twitter. Please do follow me and a link to my blog as well. And I'll see you again in the next video.